In this video, we'll focus on estimation. Recall that estimation is really just rounding. We do this when we want to make operations such as addition simpler. This table shows 5 states with the highest median income in the US as of 2024. We want to estimate the total median income for these states by rounding to the nearest 10,000. So we'll start with Maryland. First, we need to locate the rounding digit, the nearest 10,000. We have ones, tens, hundreds, thousands, 10,000s. Focusing on this 9, the rounding digit, we look to the right of the 9, which is 4. Remember that if the number to the right of our rounding digit is under 5, we round down. We leave the 9 as it is, but everything to the right becomes zeros, leaving us with 90,000. Up next, the rounding digit this time is this first 8. Look to the right of that rounding digit, and we have another 8. 5 or bigger tells us to round up. So we add 1 to the rounding digit, making this first 8 become a 9, and everything to the right of that becomes zeros. For New Hampshire, again, the rounding digit is an 8. Look to the right of the 8, and we have another 8. If this digit to the right of the rounding digit is 5 or bigger, we add 1 to the rounding digit, making this 9, and everything to the right becomes zeros. Again, we have an 8 as the rounding digit. Look to the right of that, which is 6. 5 or bigger tells us to round up. So we have, again, 90,000. And finally, again, we have an 8. Look to the right of the rounding digit. We have 5 or bigger, which tells us to round up, making this one also 90,000. And now we can relatively quickly add this. It'll be much easier to add these estimated answers as compared to these. 9 plus 9 is 18, plus 9 is 27, plus 9 is 36, plus 9 is 45. So we have 45 followed by 4 zeros, or 450,000. So we estimated the total of those 5 US states' median income at $450,000. If we wanted to find the actual value, we would have to add these up as they are. To do that, let's use the calculator. We have 94,384 plus 88,311 plus 88,235 plus 86,725 plus 85,239. And it looks like the actual value is 442,894. Notice that that value is relatively close to our estimated value. So if you don't have a calculator available and you want to get a quick estimate, we can round values and then add them up, and it's a little bit easier than adding these up individually as they are originally. Up next, we want to estimate the difference. Kylie Jenner is allegedly worth $748,723,965. Jeff Bezos is allegedly worth $151,602,983,751. Estimate how much more Jeff Bezos is worth than Kylie Jenner by first rounding their bank accounts to the nearest 10 million. So we'll start with Jeff Bezos since his is the biggest, and we want to go to the nearest 10 million. Remember the place value. We have 1, 10, 100, thousands, 10,000s, 100,000s, millions, 10 million. So if we're rounding this digit, we get a 0. We look to the right of that, which is a 2. It means we round down. So we'll stop it there and make the 2, and everything to the right, 0. That is 151,602, and everything to the right becomes zeros. For Kylie Jenner, again, we want to round to the nearest 10 million. So at first, find the 10 millions place in her net worth. We have ones, tens, hundreds, thousands, 10,000s, 100,000s, millions, 10 millions. Look to the right of the 4 and we have an 8. Since it's 5 or bigger, we round up, which means we add 1 to the 4, making this 750 million. And remember, the directions wanted us to estimate each difference. We're trying to figure out how much more Jeff Bezos has. So we're going to subtract. 0 minus 0, those are simple, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. Then 2 minus 0 is 2. 0 minus 5. We can't do that, so we need to borrow from the 6. 6 becomes a 5, and we put a 1 beside the 0. We now have 10 minus 5, which is 5. 5 minus 7, we can't do that, so we need to borrow from the 1. The 1 becomes a 0. We put a 1 beside the 5, making that 15. 15 minus 7 is now 8. And then 0, there's nothing to subtract from 0 or the 5 or the 1, so we'll just bring those down. And so the difference in their net worth is $150,852,000,000, roughly, since we are estimating. In part B, the Earth is said to be 92,955,807 miles from the Sun and 238,855 miles from the Moon. Estimate how much closer Earth is to the Moon than the Sun by rounding to the nearest 100,000. Let's start with the Sun. We're looking for the nearest 100,000. Ones, tens, 100, 1,000, 10,000, 100,000. So we're focusing on this 9. Look to the right of the 9 and we get a 5. So that means we round up, which tells us to add 1 to the rounding digit. Adding 1 to the 9 makes this 10, which means we carry the 1 over to get 93 million miles. And we want to also round the Moon's distance to the 100,000s place. Ones, tens, 100, 1,000, 10,000, 100,000. So focusing on this 2 as our rounding digit, we look to the right and we see that there is a 3, a round down. So everything to the right of the 2 simply becomes zeros. So we have 200,000 as our estimate for the Moon. Now subtract, since we're looking for a difference. We have 0 minus 0 a few times, and then 0 minus 2. We can't do that, so we need to borrow from the 3, making the 3 a 2, and we'll put a 1 beside the 0, making that 10. 10 minus 2 is 8, and then we can bring down the 9 and the 2. So the estimated difference, 92,800,000, and the units there, miles.